Well, hey, Gundam fans, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. Today, we're continuing our look into the 0080 series, War in the Pocket. We're actually at episode 5 called Say It Ain't So, Bernie. The series is much more impactful if you have watched it before or know what's going to happen. This is one of the, and I wouldn't say only, but this is a strong contender for a Gundam series that you can watch over and over. It's only 6 episodes. The episodes aren't long. And we're just now getting to that point where these actions that are going to be occurring, especially in this episode, are just so much more impactful now that I know what's going to happen. But before we get started, if you haven't, please like and subscribe. There's a link in the description below for a giveaway I'm doing. There's always going to be giveaways going on, so be sure to join those. Thanks a lot. This episode starts by showing a recap of what occurred at the end of the last episode, which was pretty amazing. Not only just seeing the fight between the Alex and the Kampfer, where the Cyclops team like Bernie was involved, and they were pretty much all taken out by the Federation forces. But Al, a child, is involved, and he's in the middle of it, and he's seeing what's going on, and you can tell it's affecting him. But not only is it just a cool, epic mobile suit fight, I just like the kind of intensity that surrounds the whole event, because Chris McKenzie, the pilot, who really is just the test pilot for analyzing the data in the Alex, actually has to go out and defend the base. Because really the Cyclops team, Zeon, is there to find whatever mobile suit they have in place and destroy it. Pretty cool shot of a mobile suit here and it kind of has that look of the power loader from Aliens. I even think, isn't James Cameron, he was kind of inspired by Gundam in a way that had to do with the power loader, potentially. And also, there is something from the original 0079 Mobile Suit Gundam where Mirai makes a comment about being licensed to pilot a cruiser, or I forget the exact verbiage, but in Aliens, Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley says kind of the same thing. And I really see there are some elements between Aliens and between Gundam and James Cameron that carry over. And actually, in fact, this series was actually made after Aliens, so I wonder how much of that design is from the power loader or it's really just me. But anyway, just cool to kind of see some other mobile suit technology taking place. But really what's happening here is they're on the moon base Granada. Colonel Killing, who we saw earlier when he was putting together the Cyclops team for Operation Rubicon, he's having them load up a nuke. And really, the other, I guess, commander that is there doesn't think this is a good idea. Colonel Killing and his men just kill him anyway. And I guess the whole point is, I guess within the Zeons, there are some good guys. They didn't want to go against the Antarctic Treaty, meaning no use of the nuclear weapons. But I guess the idea here is Side 6 wasn't a part of the treaty, so he feels he should be doing it anyway. But then for also killing... Colonel Killing, also killing other Zeon soldiers, it just seems like he's just a bad person in general, so it really doesn't matter. So Chris McKenzie at that Federation base then gets questioned by the local police about what happened there, because this is the aftermath of that battle with the Kampfer and the Alex, and they're kind of hiding the Alex, covering it up in some way, but the police are outside by the Kampfer wanting to ask Chris some questions. Gruesome shot of the pilot's chair. Wow. So they're standing outside the Kampfer here, and what's very interesting is the dialogue. Sure, they're police needing to question Chris about what happened here, but I think the undertones of it, what they're really getting at is, the police, they're complaining how Zeon had to attack because the Federation is here. And why is the Federation here? It's their fault that there's an attack going on. And Chris kind of justifies it by saying, well, if we didn't fight back, more people would have died. But the police make a point. Like, the only reason the Zeon were attacking Side 6 is because supposedly the Alex had escaped to that location, or a Federation mobile suit in general, and they wanted to be able to find that out and destroy it. Oh, more Christmas shots. Definitely a Christmas film. Yeah, pretty gruesome. In fact, Al happens to stumble upon this as he's running back from the store. He's getting some burgers, and he sees a dead child being pulled from the rubble. So it's starting to impact him a little more. He just witnessed the Kampfer and Alex battle, and Bernie's scared, pulling a gun on him, and now he's seeing kind of the destruction and death that's occurring in his city. And, this is an interesting exchange. Bernie's actually in the forest sitting by his Zaku, and he's kind of like packing up. And what's interesting is he's thinking back of when Steiner died, and Steiner asks Bernie, did we stop it? Did we stop the Alex? Bernie lies, and he said, yeah, we did. And, that's kind of a moment to kind of, I guess, as Steiner's dying, maybe he can, feel better about it. But he immediately knows that Bernie is lying and calls him out on it. So kind of an interesting character exchange there. So Bernie's back at that bar that Garcia was at earlier to get information. Obviously, this is a Zeon sympathizer. He's actually telling them about the nuke that we saw Colonel Killing load. So they're going to use nuclear weapons just to destroy the colony so they don't have to worry about the Gundam. Now, because of that, Bernie's shocked. And, the guy at the bar was saying, hey, you just need to get out of here. And he's going to stay behind. He's older. He just feels, it's his time. But Bernie, he's going to get out. He feels like there's really no reason to fight anymore. Back in that little forest area where the Zaku is, Al's there bringing Bernie some food. They're kind of sitting and talking, but Bernie's just really talking about how this didn't really go the way it should have. He's just going to have to go. He even tells Al about the nuke that's coming. So very interesting what's occurring right now. They weren't able to stop the Alex. Bernie is the only one left. And he's like, yeah, there's no reason. I mean, he even tells Al how he never even really shot down one mobile suit. He's not really a good pilot. He doesn't have faith in himself. And he's trying to then tell these things to Al, so then Al feels that same way to kind of justify giving up. But Al doesn't want Bernie to give up. And more is revealed at this point. Bernie takes that little patch that he gave Al, ripped it in half, and showed the listening device. They're just pretty much telling him, hey, look, you got involved. We just had to spy on you. That's why we were keeping you around. It was nothing about really having you involved to help us take down the Alex. It's just you were involved, and we had to, play it safe. It's cool seeing these video games that they're playing during that time. Christmas Santa. Very cool. Al is watching the video game. He's seeing the destruction, and it's making him then think about what Bernie told him about the nuke coming. And so right now it's starting to get into Al's head. And, he's standing there looking worried inside the arcade, and a policeman comes up to him and asks, everything okay? What's going on? And Al's getting the flashbacks of Bernie saying, if they find out, you were involved, that makes you an accomplice, they'll execute you. And now he's freaking out even more. So again, he's starting to feel the ramifications of everything that occurred up to that point. So interesting exchange. Chris McKenzie, the pilot, she's kind of going through some rubble, and you can tell she's saddened by everything that's happening. Al runs into her, and Al starts asking her, hey, if you knew something bad was going to happen, would you stay and fight? Would you take off? And this is kind of an interesting moment where she's kind of laying out her thoughts on it, but in a way where it's really personal to each individual person, what they want to do. Do they want to stay and fight, depending on what the situation is, if it's literal fighting or standing up for something, or just leave and escaping? And in this way, she's almost letting Al know, based on what's going through Al's head, that I guess it's okay for Bernie to make the decision that he wants, even though Al really wanted Bernie to stay and fight. This scene is very cool. We see Bernie at the airport, you would call it really a spaceport. They even have some really cool designs, kind of seeing the technology involved with the spaceport on a colony. And he decides he's going to take off. He actually doesn't know where when he goes to buy a ticket, and then he just sees an ad for a colony called Francesca. So he says, yeah, I'll go there. And, one takeaway real quick, as I was watching this, I was like, you know what? If this was live action, Ryan Gosling would play a great Bernie, even though Ryan Gosling, I think the age difference between what Bernie is supposed to be during this time. But anyway, he just kind of has that look to him. Al's walking home. He's walking past the school, and it's kind of been destroyed. It was destroyed at night, though, so no one got hurt. But his friends actually were sneaking around in there, and they've got some bullet casings from the battle. And they're like all excited, like, look what I got. This is awesome. The thing is, at this point, Al has kind of changed his mind about the war and the fighting in a way. Again, he knows what's going to happen, and he wants Bernie to stay and fight. But when it comes to the joy of it, he's lost that childlike joy that I talked about that he had in those first few episodes, where this was all fun to him because it was just battling. He was playing, the video game in his room earlier. He was in the chair acting like it was a pilot seat. So he's just having fun fantasizing. But once he's hit with the impact of the real world implications, his tune has changed. And he's just kind of laugh crying here because really he's sad. Really cool shots of some Zeon spacecraft here. But very cool. And then we're seeing the craft that's supposed to have the nuclear missile on it as well. Again, Colonel Killing is ordering the ship to send the nuke to the colony, even though not all Zeon really want to go with that, but hey. And of course, a cameo by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but no, just the accent is very reminiscent of that. It kind of sticks with the theme of kind of the Eastern European, I guess, to kind of almost in some way mimic that kind of military Axis regime, I guess, from World War II. But then Al, after talking with Chris, I guess, and then, witnessing how his friends are acting about the war, even though they didn't go through what he did, he decides to go to the police and tell them that they're going to be launching a nuclear missile to destroy the colony. Everyone's just kind of laughing at him. And of course, when he got there previously, because of the going on that wild goose chase, I guess, of the car that hit him, and it ended up really being, well, he was telling them it's really his brother to kind of stop them from getting in trouble. They're just not believing anything he's saying. Oh, just a cool shot of what one of these, I guess, intercolonial spacecraft look like. And it even says NTW Aerospace Lines. And I really like the detail of this. So I think it's just really cool how they, this adds more world building in general. Another cool shot, in my opinion. So Bernie's at this bar, getting a whiskey, and there's this girl that reminds him of Chris. I think he thinks it's Chris at first. But then she goes onto a phone call, like, I guess, complaining about, I guess, some guy that left her. They were supposed to get married. And they're kind of going through this conversation, and it's making him reflect on his choices. And it actually makes him decide to stay and fight. And, another kind of, saddening moment where Bernie's looking back at all the good times he had with Al. Even though the main idea around this was, Al wasn't supposed to get involved. They had to just try to keep him safe. And Bernie's like, look, I'm getting out of here. A nuke is going to hit this place, without even thinking about wanting to keep Al safe. Now that he's facing, I guess, the morality of it, you have what Al complained to him about, what he experienced when he's at the spaceport. He's now thinking back and cherishing these moments. That ultimately leads him to change his mind. So, very interesting at the dinner table. We heard a little bit about Al's dad before. He's not with his mom. He's off doing his own thing. But I guess they decided to work it out. And Al's dad is going to move back in. And his mom tells him this. But he has this shocked look on his face. And Al's mom doesn't really know what to make of it. But really, we know that inside, Al's thinking, well, Dad's going to be here on Christmas Day. And Christmas Day is when this nuke is going to attack the colony. So it's just, he doesn't know what to do. He's just in shock. Bernie leaves the spaceport, decides to make a phone call, and it's to Al. To Al's surprise, and Al is very happy to hear from Bernie. So knowing that Bernie decides to stay behind and fight, and he asks Al to help him out, it'll be curious to see, for those who haven't watched this, what happens in the next episode. And for those that do, this episode really builds up that emotion that will be unleashed by the time of the end of the 6th episode. So I hope you enjoyed kind of my overview and analysis of this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments below. It did really a good job of some world building. We see what the length Zeon's willing to go when it comes to just the overall Federation versus Zeon, what was happening in the background, and these people that are having to live through it. And most of the time, you're meeting people that are oblivious to what's happening in the background. Really, the only people that know what's going on are Bernie and Al. Even to a point, Chris isn't even aware of what's going on. But yeah, it's just such a great series. I almost don't know what to say. Like, you get to this point and it's like, what is going to happen next? And in fact, just for doing my research, I was watching this. I'd watched it multiple times just recently, right before recording this video. And my wife happened to be in the same room as me as I was watching it. And then when it was over, she was curious what was going to happen next. And she watched the episode after this. And I can't wait to tell you what the reaction was she had, because it met my expectations. But anyway, hope you liked this. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't. And we'll talk later.